Okay. All right. Welcome back to Moms Behind Moto. And we are here for, I think, what, episode 24 or 25?
I think
I don't
so.
even know.
20. We lost track.
Right. But we are here with a very special guest. Shauna, why don't you introduce her since she is a friend of yours?
Okay, so we get the honor today of talking with Sarah, whose son is Levi Kitchen. And this is kind of special for us because Levi and his family, they're from the Pacific Northwest. Us being a West Coast family, when we first started racing, when we would travel up north, um, we kind of got to see Levi as obviously a young amateur and being over here. And then all of a sudden, Levi is a superstar. And not only is Levi a superstar, but Levi is truly one of the most humble, I would say, I say kid, but he's not a kid anymore. I guess because I'm older, I still call him a kid.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
that our family has met. And I'll talk about a little bit more as we get in. But I'll kind of let Sarah introduce herself and her family. So, Sarah, tell us a little bit about you, Levi, your family dynamics, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Well, I am Sarah and obviously Levi's mom, and he still is a kid to me, even though he's 24. It still feels like he's 12. And I still wake up every morning and I pinch myself that this is what he's doing for a living. It truly is a dream. We never, ever anticipated it happening, and here we are. Our backstory is my husband and I are both born and raised in the Pacific Northwest, specifically Washougal. We've lived here our entire life. My husband grew up racing motocross. His parents actually his mother passed away 8 years ago of cancer, which was awful, but they live like right above the Washougal motocross track. Even still, that's where his family home is at. Grandfather lived on Bourne Road, which is the road that you come into on the motocross. His youngest sister has a house on Bourne Road now. We live above the motocross track. So Levi used to have a trail down to the motocross track when he was little. And my husband rode motocross as a kid. He didn't really get into it until he was about 14. And his dynamic was different because his mom stayed home and, he had two other siblings. And so there wasn't a lot of money to do extra stuff like that. So he actually raced Black Angus beef at the county fair every summer. And so he would sell his beef at market, and that is what would pay for his motocross. And so, he grew up with that, and that was fine. And he was really very good at riding, but he had the mentality of, if I don't get a start, then I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. And so at that point, obviously I'm not together with him, but he was hurt a lot. So yeah, we got together in high school, and we are going on 30 years married next year. And so,
Wow.
yeah. So, and
Congratulations.
ironically, thank you. Ironically, every year our anniversary is August 3rd. So we spend it at Loretta's every year. So, yes. So, and actually next year for our 30th, we're going to go back to Loretta's as just spectators
Oh,
because, when you're doing it, you guys are in the thick of it. It takes every ounce of energy, money. It's stressful. It's fun, but you're there to do a job. And so we've agreed that we're going to go back and experience it as just normal people. I've never even got to tour Loretta's whole thing because I
yeah.
always wanted to, and I love country music, but I'm like, there's just no time for that. And we don't have
Yeah.
the extra money to go do fun things like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're going to go back there next year and celebrate our 30th and then hang out in Nashville and do all that. So anyways, back to, the story of Levi. We had our daughter first. She's going to be 27 this month. And then Levi, he's 24 now. And so, it was inevitable. He, from birth, I think, loved anything two wheels. And so when he was 3, I think is when we bought him his first PW. And he didn't actually start racing until I think it was about 6. We had an indoor arena cross series in the wintertime because the weather here, as you guys both know,
Right.
is not great for outdoor motocross. We get about 3 months of sunshine and that's it. Otherwise, it's raining a lot. So for him as a young kid, he did that. We took him, I think, when he was 6, and he used to just, tool around our property. We have 5 acres up here in Washougal, and so we built him a little track, and We literally just did it for fun. And my daughter actually even did it, for a while. She raced at the outdoor series locally in Portland. And I'll tell you, like, I did a little, digging on you guys because I'm like, I want to know your story too. And I say this in the nicest way, like, I don't know how you do it with kids and other things. Like she said, you had to go pick your daughter up and dance.
Yeah.
And our daughter did kind of dabble in a few things, but I will say, had she have really taken something seriously, I don't know that Levi would be in the position that he is right now because she was so supportive and giving up a lot to basically support her brother.
Yeah.
Right.
We did the volleyball and she did school sports when they were in public school, but I tell you what, like, it's tough either. I mean, any way you slice it, it's just tough on a family
Mhm.
if you're fully committed and there's a lot of sacrifice. So nonetheless, we did it as a family for fun. And I think our story is a little bit different than a lot of people, just simply because we didn't have the money to do all the things. And honestly, we did what we could afford. And when we recognized that Levi had a talent, we sat down and my husband and I were like, okay, I have three non-negotiables. One is that, there's got to be balance in our life. There has to be something other than just motocross. So if he wants to go camping instead of riding, we're going to do that without dirt bikes. And then big for me was education. I'm like, if this doesn't pan out, and I honestly, to my core, did not know that it would come to him being a professional. I'm like, he has to have an education. The diploma is huge. And at the end, like, we did do the online school before COVID was even a thing, his 9th through 12th grade year. And our family thought we were crazy. They're like, what? You're pulling him out of public school? And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
because the teachers don't have any kind of curriculum to help
Yeah.
him, and I don't want to have to keep writing teachers to say he
Yeah.
needs a schoolwork. And so luckily his sister hated high school. She went to public school her freshman year and she just did not jive with all the girls and the drama.
Yep.
So we said, okay, well, find an alternative then. And their school didn't have any kind of alternative. And so we had a close district about 30 minutes away that offered like an online program. It was more for like troubled teens than just kids that, race motocross,
Yeah.
but
Right.
it worked. And in the end, he got his diploma and so did she. And I'm like, kids, you can't get a job even at Costco without it. And
Right.
if this doesn't work out, I'm not willing to sacrifice your education for that. So
Right.
college, that's not for everybody. You at least need the high school diploma. And then within our means, I mean, that was like, you can throw everything but the kitchen sink at it. And so we saw so many families give up everything and live in their RVs. And then when their kid didn't make it, it was like, not only the relationship between, I think, the parent and the kid, but that pressure that kid must have felt
Yeah.
for, that happening. So that was the thing and that was hard too, because it would be easy to take out a second mortgage on the house to go pay for a race. But and there were times it's like, you try to keep up with the Joneses and that
Yep.
is oftentimes hard and you feel those pressures. And then social media was just coming out. So you see what everybody else is doing and what they have. And so that was challenging, but nonetheless, we just, we did our own thing and we did what we could. We would treat Loretta's honestly as a family vacation every year. And ironically, we didn't put pressure on Levi in the sense that he didn't do any kind of training, like gym training. He just rode his dirt bike. And
Yeah.
so our expectation when we went to Loretta's every year was that you do your best every time you're out on the track. And that's all we can ask. And my husband was always his mechanic, coach, and that saved us tons of money too, because when you have someone who can fix anything, you save lots of money.
Yeah.
So and locally, we did a lot of local racing. I will say that gate drops, if you're in the thick of it, I feel like is more important than just practicing, like, because it kind of helps you gauge where you're at and where your kid's at. And frankly, I think too, and I love the sport and I love that people get into it, but there comes a point when as a family, you have to decide what you're willing to like invest into it. And there is the truth that some kids are just more talented than others. And so as a parent, and we recognize that there was talent there. So it's like, how can we make this work within our means? And so
Right.
we would go to like the Dodge Amateur National was a big one for us because it was close enough that we could drive.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would do Mammoth and we would do Cal Classic, but Levi never did Freestone or the Florida race. What's the one? Mini Olympics until like I think 2018. I mean, he was almost, 17, because we couldn't afford to, send the bikes
Go
over
all
Yeah,
the
there. And
way.
that's
that
a
Yeah.
was,
lot.
it's a lot. And I also don't know. I listened to one of your, I can't remember who it was, but she said that, if you don't own your own company when you race motocross and you want to do all this traveling, I don't know how people do it. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
and we owned our own company as well. And so we were able to do it, but still not without the headache of, especially if you have employees, you go away and you're still dealing with work constantly and all of that. So, but Loretta's was a special treat every year. Is like, as long as Levi improved by the end of the week from where he started, then we were happy with that. I mean, we're like, we want the drive home to be a good drive home. So
Yeah.
let's just try our best.
Yeah.
A long
And
drive.
obviously, but yeah, it's a long drive back. So, even if it doesn't start out great, then let's end it on a good note. And so,
Yeah.
and I actually looked back at Loretta's history prior to getting on with you guys, because I hadn't in a long time. And his first time going there was 2010. 2009, he was on a little PW and he qualified, but then right before he broke his tib fib at the neighbor's track.
Oh,
So
no.
we couldn't go. But as you guys, I mean, we had planned for it, we'd saved for it. And I'm like, well, we're going to do something because we have the time off work. So we took the kids down to Disneyland and, made a whole trip of, out of it while everybody else was at Loretta's.
Yeah.
And so, but it wasn't until, I can't remember what year it was, Levi was almost 18. He turned 18 in February, and every winter around Christmas break, we would take the kids to California so he could ride his dirt bike because it's sunny down there and cruddy up
Right.
here. It wasn't until almost 18 that we were like, okay, we set him down and we're like, you're going to either be an electrician with your dad, or we have the money saved and we have your mom has called a couple of places. We're going to send you away to do the training camp, and whatever becomes of it becomes of it. And then once you're 18, like, that's it. Like, we're not going to financially support this. It'll become your hobby and you will basically support it. Secretly, my husband and I had said that we would give him a year in Supercross, like that we would support that, but
Yeah.
that's
Right.
it. Like, it's like, we can't afford. And also, you guys know, I mean, those motors that these factories have, those
Yeah.
privateers, we need privateers, and I love privateers, but that is a lot of money. And again, that would be a sacrifice that I would not be willing to make, because I want to go on vacations now with
Yeah.
somebody serving me a margarita
Yes.
and an umbrella. Like,
Exactly.
I put in my time.
No,
So,
definitely.
yeah, we sent him away, and then, the rest is history. And then, and nobody knew who he was at Loretta's literally until
that
he
was-
was 18.
That was going to be a question. So you said you went and looked back at his Loretta's history. What were his best finishes?
So Levi always finished in the top 10, 11 range, with the exception of, I looked at in mini senior 1 and mini senior 2. I was like, God, why did he get 23rd and 36? My husband and I were talking about it. I'm like, that was not a good drive home. I can tell you that. It was in 2015. And my husband reminded me that he went out on a rope swing with a buddy that was older than him. And he ripped his elbow out of socket. Like, he
Oh my
swung off the rope
gosh.
swing. Yeah. So he hyperextended
Okay.
his elbow and didn't tell
no.
us
Yeah.
until obviously he sucked. And we're like, what are you doing? So that
By the
was
way,
like,
I was
I'm
doing
like,
something
oh,
I shouldn't
Yeah.
have been doing.
Uh-huh.
exactly.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So after that, it was like, okay, well, then we're not doing that anymore ever. And you want the kids to have fun, right?
Yeah.
It's like Disneyland for moto kids. Like, it is the best place on earth for that. But you're also there to do a job. Your parents are spending a lot of money for you to be there.
Yes.
So you do need to do your best and mind your mom and dad.
So see, I like that though, that he has literally no Loretta Lynn's titles, but look,
Zero.
But look
And
where he's at.
Yeah, what was crazy about it is the year that we sent him away, Rob and Sherry Burkhart with Real Deal, they're from Washington State. And I had called around, and we knew Austin Black. He's a local pro here that Levi, grew up racing against. He had went to that facility back in Louisiana. And so I got a little feedback from his mom. And so I called Rob on the phone and I was like, hey, you don't know who I am, but I'm Levi's mom. And we're thinking of, want to get information about sending him there. And he's like, oh yeah. He goes, well, I don't know Levi. I mean, I've heard of him because nobody knew him. But here's what I can tell you. If you send him down here, when Miss Sherry, that's his wife, and I are finished with him, he'll still be a good kid.
Aww.
And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
good. These are good, and so we literally loaded up our motorhome the week after Christmas and drove him to Louisiana. So like I said, he turned 18 in February. And then he showed up at Loretta's that following year, 2019. Let's see, 2019, and he was on a 125. And that also, too, we had support from Yamaha, which was great, Donnie Luce, but that didn't come until a little bit later when he got a little bit older. And, you know, we're still buying our bikes. And so Ed Torrance, who is just a big old teddy bear.
That's who my son currently rides for. He's with Factory Yamaha, and so we have Donnie and we have Ed.
I just get chills because they're two of the greatest human beings ever.
They are.
Yeah. And Levi, he did stay very loyal to the brand, obviously. And I think that for us as a family was important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it matters, even though people might not think it matters. It mattered to us. And so because they were doing so much for us, you know, helping and everything. But that was a transitional period. When Levi went to Rob's, that was also when Ed was like, you know, we'll support you, but you have to stay down on a 125 again.
Okay.
And we were like, okay. And Dad can't be the mechanic. And so you have to hire a mechanic. And I was like, okay, this is getting real now. Like, what? Like, Dad, like, but honestly, looking back now, that's the best thing that could have ever happened, because now Dad just gets to be Dad, and that pressure of like having to make sure the bike is running right and things are, you know, and that was Paul and Levi's relationship is still amazing because Paul never yelled at Levi, and Levi respected his dad enough that, you know, when things didn't go right, you know, it wasn't like this big old fight. It was just like, you know, stuff happens, and that's the way that it is. So that was the first like big, like, oh, wow. Okay. Now we have a mechanic, and actually it made it easier. So Levi was like, I don't want to stay down on 125s. We're like, dude, you haven't even hit puberty yet. He was like, literally still 5 feet tall with long hair. Like, and so we were secretly, my husband being the motocrosser, he's like, this is great because he'll learn how to ride a big bike and he'll have another year to just gain experience. Like, we don't need to rush this. And I'm like, okay. But leading up to that point, like the super minis, mini senior, like all the kids are like so much faster than Levi. And I'm like, he never gets recognition. Like, he's always in the top 10, but nobody cares unless you're winning Loretta's. And there is some truth to that, unfortunately. And I don't love that about it. But I will say that when he went away, 125s, let's see, I was looking at my notes when he was on 125s, he got third, which was really a first, but he re-entered the track unsafely, which really, I mean, that's to be, you know, it's one of those where interpretation. So his first was a third.
Okay.
That's the best finish he's ever had. And so then Ed was like, okay, like now that we've given you a 125, next year you can ride a 250 and a 450. And he's like, sweet. Like, he knew that the Star Boys, you know, that's his dream, is to be on Star Yamaha. And so Ed's like, I can't build you a motor. Like, you're going to have to ride the stock classes because I don't have it in the budget. And Levi was so upset. He was just like, I'm not racing stock classes. And we're like, change your perspective. Yes, you are, actually. That's all. We're not paying for your motors. Like, again, this is a really expensive sport, and you're lucky that you even get to go to Loretta's. So nonetheless, that was the year that it all changed. We showed up, and his trainer, Rob, said to Paul and I, he goes, your kid's going to make history this week. And I was like, okay, Rob, we've been here 7 times. And he's not making history. But again, he'd been away. And to be honest, I didn't think he would survive because I did everything for him. And now he's on his own, living in a motorhome by himself. Rob's wife, Sherry, was the cook, though. So we paid her to basically cook him lunch and dinner. He just had to fend for himself for breakfast. But I did truly think that he wouldn't survive it because we did everything as a family, and literally I enabled my kids a little bit too much, I think. But he surprised me. He did well. And then that first moto, I will never forget it. We're standing up on the Fox Tower and the gate dropped, 250B limited, and he's literally in last place. And this is like after Rob said my kid's going to make history. And I look over at my husband and I just start bawling. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? And my husband's like, just wait, like this moto, it's a long moto. Like, he has time. He's been training for this. And I'm just like, okay, well, I mean, he's literally dead last. And so, but he ended up winning the moto. He came from dead last and he won by like quite a huge margin. And so then people were like, dude, who's this kid? Well, then he went on to win all 5 motos after that. Like, the whole week was perfect. And after the moto, he's like, Mom, sorry about that. I don't know what happened at the start. what are you doing, kid? You gave me a heart attack. I was like, seriously, and in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm like, we spent all this money to do the
Yeah.
training. And that is like the story of Loretta's. Like, it's so,
Yes. The
and
roller
so
coaster.
after he won everything that year, like that was a real, Paul and I and our family have always kind of kept to ourselves. And so like Kevin Wyndham came into my trailer and I'm like, Kevin Wyndham is in my trailer. Like, what is happening right now? This is insane. And he had it was just great because he's like, I just, your kid has something special and there's going to be people calling after this week. And I'm like, still in disbelief over this whole thing happening. And he wasn't wrong. And he gave us lots of great advice as far as like an agent and needing an agent. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you guys clearly don't talk to people. You stay in your motorhome, which isn't a bad thing, but you need someone to
Right.
represent your son. So gave us really good feedback on that. And ironically, that week, Levi thought that he had a Geico Honda deal. Like Kevin, he's like, I've got my guys, they're looking at you. Well, then Geico Honda folded.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, yeah, so that, and Levi, obviously that was a dream. Like he didn't want to switch brands, but Geico Honda, who wouldn't want to ride for them? So he was like, oh my gosh, can you believe this? And so anyway, came back the next year and won the Open Pro Sport and the 250 Pro. And at that point, he hadn't signed with Star yet, I don't believe. No, because they wanted to make sure that this was not a fluke and that he truly was going to keep winning.
Yeah.
So then he went to Mini O's after Loretta's, his pro year, and he won all of the Supercross events and the pro classes. And then I think 2 of the 4 motocross events.
I remember that. We were there.
Yes. And for his, it being, I think, he went there twice. So it was his second year. He did okay there the first year, but then it was Bobby Reagan was like willing to put a contract in front of him. And so, and we'd heard, about that. They're like, if he puts a contract in front of you, if you don't sign it within 24 hours, he's ripping it out from you. So like, you need to be aware of that. So we got the phone calls from Will Hahn, and I flew out to California twice because I was so afraid that they were going to stick something in front of him that he shouldn't sign. He's still like a 12-year-old in a 20-year-old's body at this point. So, yeah. So anyway, that's kind of how it all transpired. I know that was a mouthful, but it was like not your traditional.
It's good information. I think I love that you touch on, well, a lot of things. One, like not selling the farm. Because I think especially nowadays, it's so easy to get like wrapped up in, oh, well, so-and-so's doing this, so I need to, or so-and-so's doing this and I do. And Haley and I have talked about this before because I'm very transparent. We've done that. We've been like, oh, you look at your competition. And then when we did it, it didn't work for our son. And it was because he's different. And so we have come to a point where we've kind of like reversed a little bit, came back to our roots and be like, okay, what was working when Aiden was doing well? And so we've kind of gone back to that. And so the training facility, living in a motorhome, that works for some families.
Yes.
It did not work for ours. And mainly because we have 3 kids. I love my husband dearly. I'm not going to lie. Like I love when I go do my own thing and he does his, but long term, like I don't want to be away from him. And I definitely am not sending my kid who's under the age of 18 somewhere on his own. And I loved how you touched on how you enabled your kids. I'm guilty of it, but I also think that this sport, it like does something to these families. And I think it's because there is so much sacrifice, whether it's emotional, physical, monetarily, all the things that go into it. I think because we're putting so much into it, we also want to make sure that like, okay, like I'm constantly, Aiden, here's your breakfast. Aiden, here's your snack. Aiden, here's your water. Like, and I'm sure he's so irritated with me, but it's like, okay, we've gone this far. Yeah. We've spent this much money, and we try not to, I'm like, oh, well, we've spent all this money because I also don't want that on his shoulders. He knows. Yeah. But everyone's doing their part to make this dream or goal work.
Yep, absolutely.
And so I just love that you touch on that because it's real, like, and it's hard. And also I love that you talked about his Loretta's finishes because
nobody knew who he was.
Well, and it's funny because we did just from going to all the stuff over here. But then no, but I literally remember we were on I think Aiden, it was his first year on a senior 50, I think was Levi's first year at Loretta's. And I remember watching him and I'm like, oh my gosh, there is Levi. And it was funny because, like you said, I mean, we are the crazy family where we did everything, but we would go to spring nationals. Levi wasn't there. But I love that. And I love the fact that, like, Levi kind of came out of nowhere. Like, he did all this stuff on the West Coast, and then he showed up at Loretta's when it mattered, and he kicked ass.
Well,
And
and I think that was one of the things that was hard because I wasn't raised in moto. And my husband told me numerous times when I would get really just down over what everybody else was doing. And Levi lost a lot. Like, he did not win Loretta's local races because people had better equipment, whatever the case may be. And also, too, we would tell, like, Levi, when you're not winning, you're learning. And that still stands true in his professional career today. We always, decompress and, like, you're learning something if you're not winning, and you should be. And so ultimately that was, like, I think the hardest thing is seeing everybody else succeeding. But it also made us realize, like, Levi didn't do any training. He didn't eat like he should have. I tried to get him to join a gym 1,000,000 times as a kid. And he's like, are you out of your mind? Like, and then I don't have a nutrition background. So I'm like trying to feed him all the right things. Now the biggest fat is protein, this and that. Thank God he hired a nutritionist last year. Because, like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, I don't know if red meat's okay or apples for a snack. Like, and so that has really elevated his professional career. But also, too, I like looking back, it's okay that he didn't do all those things. Yes, should he eat? Yes, should he drink water? I mean, I made sure the basics were taken care of.
Right.
But also, too, they're still kids. And I think that's so important that, yes, you're spending a lot of money, as we all did, but the relationship now that him and his dad and I and his sister still have with him, because there wasn't that pressure and that, like, you have to win, and we mortgaged our house. So now we really feel the pressure. Now he's just, he literally calls his dad every day after he rides to check in, to tell him that he's fine. It was a good day. And
you're making me feel so much better about my life choices with my son.
Well, and it's true. And I think
because he's the same. He, like, working out, it's like pulling teeth. Eating well, his idea of a really great lunch is pizza rolls. Like, the kid could live off every processed item in the freezer, and he's so happy about it. And we don't have, like, my husband's job, he can travel a little bit, but we don't have the means to be at a training facility. We don't train. We go every now and again. We'll go down south and, touch with somebody here and there, but Casey thankfully raced professionally, and so he is the trainer. He is the mechanic, and I always, like you, and my husband has to bring me to reality. I'm like, well, they're doing this. Like, could you imagine if Talon actually got to be at a training facility? Like, he's already one of the top 5 in the nation in his class. Like, he is one of the fast kids. But if he had all of that, like these other kids that are winning and dominating, like, could you imagine what Talon could do? And he's like, stop playing the pissing game. Like, stop looking at other people. And I'm like, okay.
It's so hard to not. And that was the other thing that my husband kept reminding me of. He's like, because I don't know, Rick Ryan. Do you know Jeremy Ryan? So we love Rick Ryan and his just humbleness, and just, he always was really kind to us. And he was the one that told Paul, I think before Levi moved up to a 125, he's like, you don't need to worry about all, because there was a lot of factory kids. I mean, Levi's still racing against some of them that had all those things that, they did talk to the right people and got the right, and so, but he was like, it all evens out when they're on big bikes.
Yeah.
The cream is going to rise to the top. So yes, Levi's getting top 10 finishes at Loretta's on an 85 and a super mini. He's fine. Like, the real work is going to come when he moves up to a big bike, and then that is important. Then he does need to start training and fueling his body with the right stuff. But, we didn't have all that extra stuff. We absolutely 100% just did what we could. And again, like, I think Levi's story is one of those that it's like, oh, dreams come true. It sounds so cliche, but it is, it was his dream. And that was the other thing that, you know, at one point he didn't go to Loretta's on 65s because he came to us and he's like, I don't want to race dirt bikes anymore. And we're like, okay, like why? And he's like, well, I want to ride my BMX bike and scooters. And we're like, okay.
I love
We
that.
didn't sell, like, and for real, like, we skipped over the 65. He did ride at home still, but we didn't race competitively on 65s at all.
Mhm.
And, you know, I think secretly he just wanted a new cool BMX bike, and, you know, he got it.
How
We
can
didn't
I get
actually,
one?
yeah, sell the dirt bikes, but, you know, I think at the end of the day, that, and I think also too, as parents, we want it as much, and that's the touchy thing. Like, you
Yeah.
want it as much. Your kid has to want it more than you
Yes.
want it.
Yes.
So we had a lot of those conversations, those tough conversations with Levi, especially as he got older. And when he was 17, it's like, it's okay if you want to go be an electrician or go to college. Like, if
Yep.
this is not a path, and we'll give you this 1 year. And he did work with his dad a little bit when he was 16 and 17 because he did online school, and he's like, no, I'm never working for my dad. And we even like named our business like Kitchen Electric, thinking that he would be an electrician and take over the family business, and he's like, nope, I'm
Just
good.
kidding.
So yeah, we're glad that it happened. But then the piece now that he's a professional, that's a whole different thing that, you know, for us it's just
Yeah,
as
I was
cool.
gonna. So
Yeah.
I have that question for you. Now that he is a pro, you know, right now, like we're in the amateur world, and so like you're so hands on. You know, you are their everything. You are their chef, their transportation, their mechanic. You're on the line. You're all of it. You're their emotional support. Now, as a pro, as parents, you've obviously had to take a step back. Is that hard?
So hard. Like, it's easier now. We just signed his third contract, so he re-signed with Kawasaki for another 2 years.
Okay.
That first year when we signed with Bobby Reagan, when Levi, we showed up for his first race. So it must have been I can't remember, but we got called into the semi with Levi, and Bobby basically told us that, and I would say this to his face, like, you know, he's a great guy, but he's like, you know, this is Levi's job. So guess what? At your job, you don't get to bring your parents to work with you. So essentially, this is his job now. And he didn't say there's not room for you, but made it very clear that,
Yeah.
you know, he's
You're
here
not
to do a
needed.
job. Exactly. And that was like, oh my gosh, what in the world?
Now, like,
Like,
and the means that,
mean,
like, he didn't, like, even being at the semi and stuff?
so that it was tough. Like, so in the semi, you go up there and they've got their table and their bunks and all
Yeah.
that where they sit and hang out. So, yeah, it was, we didn't have, like, we're not the type of people to cause conflict. And so we took that as like, stand back.
Yeah.
Now they do have a hospitality area where they have all the food, and, you know, we were always welcome in there, but we definitely knew that we weren't, like, we couldn't go in there, you know, especially on race days, because he was there to do his job.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was really, really hard for us, and also for Levi, because his dad was his person. His dad was his coach. His dad is the one that watches his every move, and his bike, and is like, and also, like, if the bike wasn't set up right, like, Star's bikes are amazing. They are so fast, and that is 100% true. It's just hard when you go from doing it for fun to, guess what? Now it's your job. And it was tough. It really was. And we didn't want to do the wrong thing, say the wrong thing to jeopardize that for Levi. And so we stepped back, and it was challenging. In the end, you know, when Levi left after his first contract was up with them, that was also really difficult, because Bobby pulled us back in and said, no one's ever left my team before. And so essentially, by Levi leaving, and I can say this now, I mean, he's like, he may never get another opportunity to ride for us again, because no one leaves my team. And I'm like, and I literally broke down crying, and I said, listen, Bobby. And Bobby would hug me. Like, Levi did well for them for considering, I feel like, I mean, I said, here's the deal. You know, he's 22 years old. He's an adult. He has to make his own decisions based on what he needs in his life now. And whether I agree or disagree with Levi in this decision, I have to support it.
Yeah.
Right.
So you telling me that, like, okay, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I'm going to support his decision 110%.
Yeah.
And it is what it's going to be. And to be frankly honest, we were scared when Levi he went out and everything has to be kept secret, which I think is so crazy. And he tested the Cowie and he tested the KTM and he called his dad and he's like, I don't know. I don't think I can win on a KTM, but I rode the Cowie and I really like it. And, we're like, well, but you did good on the Yamaha. Like you've been Yamaha your whole life.
Yeah.
Like, and again, it's your decision. You're an adult. You know what you need. And I think the hardest part for him when he went to Star is it was fun as a family, and then it became the job, which is so exciting. And then now mom and dad don't get to be a part of that. And that program is, again, just like living in a training facility as an amateur in an RV with Moto Mom, like that works for some. Same with the Star thing. Like it is, their program is their program. These are the rules. Everybody is put in the same box. And if it doesn't work for you, too bad. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I have respect for that because ultimately that taught a lot. Levi learned a lot about what he needed as an athlete, as a young athlete that now is a professional. That didn't necessarily work for him. I mean, he did okay. And now looking back at it, it actually helped him. I mean, truly, like they helped him realize what's important to him. And so now that we're over at Kawasaki, it's a whole different environment for us as his parents. Like Mitch and Kristen are amazing. And not that Bobby and Loretta aren't. They are doing great things for the sport. But I do know it to be, and just, I mean, when your kid is talented and he does well, Bobby Reagan wanted him back this year. So Levi, entertained the idea because he knows their bikes are fast, but he's like, unless there's a 450 deal included in that 250 contract, I'm going to stay where I'm at because Mitch and Kristen have been, and for our family, it's just been, that's why we don't have to go to the races anymore. Like we do go to some, but it's also expensive when your kid is professional to travel, and it's a burnout. Like I don't get to spend quality time with Levi on the weekends because he's there to do his job.
Yeah.
So my husband and I have committed this year, we'll go down to Paula and Hangtown. I'm actually sitting in our camping van now. It used to be it was our moto van, and now it's our camping van because I think my granddaughter, if she comes over and comes into our office, she'll So I was like, we need a quiet, so I'm hiding out here. But we'll go to Paula and Hangtown because it's close and be able to see him and hopefully spend a little bit of time with him. But I'd rather save my money and go travel to Florida and spend a couple weeks just hanging out with him now because it is his job, and I have to respect that, but it's hard. It really is hard.
How do you think because obviously we see what's on TV, right? So Levi goes from an amateur to a pro, and I would say my personal opinion is rookie year, he killed it. And obviously he just keeps growing, and it's so cool to see, but how did he handle the pressure from going from amateur to a pro? Because it is like you said, okay, I know, Aiden, we always tell Aiden, if you're not having fun, then it's pointless to do this. But there are times where, okay, we are here to do well. But he's also not making a mortgage payment. He's not, you know what I mean? He's just a kid. So how did Levi handle those pressures going from being a successful amateur to then saying okay, I went from amateur, now this is a job? Was it hard?
It definitely was hard because he's a very sensitive human being and he cares what people think and he wants to do good. And that's the one thing I'll say, whether you're an amateur or pro, no kid, no adult human, not even my son, they don't show up on race day wanting to suck. That's not their intent. So if they have a bad day, it's because something is going on. It is 99% mental more than it is their ability.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I've learned the most with Levi is that he is a pleaser. He wants to do the best that he can every single day. And especially now that he's a professional. And so that is tough, when he has an off day. But I think the great thing about Levi is that he recognizes on his own, where he messed up. So every setback that he's had in his professional career, we've been able to sit down and talk, with him. And it's okay, well, let's back it up. Even this recent one that happened where he thought he found another level in Daytona. We were on a cruise ship in the middle of the Caribbean because I booked it. And then because he was supposed to be West Coast. So I'm like,
Yes.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
He'll be West Coast. And then I'm going to book this cruise and then we'll go visit him in Florida because it was the weekend of Daytona.
Yep.
And he won't be racing because he's West Coast and we'll spend some time with him. So anyway, we still went on the cruise. And then my husband looked over at me. We're watching it on our phone and he's like, he's going to win tonight. I mean, like literally seconds before he yard sailed. And so, but even with that, like he recognized that he got too greedy. He's like, I found a level and I didn't need to push it as hard as I pushed it.
Yeah.
And then even, you know, at Utah, when RJ beat him for the championship, he's
Yeah.
like, I didn't execute the start. He goes, that's me. That's my fault. Like I didn't do what I was supposed to do off the start. And so I love that he recognizes that, but it still doesn't make the pressure go away. Like even now going into outdoors, like he has been back on the bike for at least a month now from the collarbone and the back and all that. And it's like, okay, if you're not going to come back for any supercross races, like Mitch isn't making him, but you better be ready to show up for outdoors and do your job. Like they hired you to win a championship. And so no pressure, but like
No pressure.
because
Yeah.
so I think that it's really hard to, as a parent, because again, like I still picture my 12-year-old little kid that is just, and I know his heart and I know, you know, that he's just like, he wants to do good every day, all day. Like that's, you know, so yeah.
Now, like
it's tough.
As a mom, I mean, we all are, I don't know, I get very mama bearish. Like you mess with my kid. Me and my husband were talking about it last night. I'm like, you don't mess with my kid. Like I will come unglued and sometimes there's no way to like stop me. But as a mom, okay, you brought up the whole he was supposed to race West Coast and he ended up racing East Coast because he was ill. And you know, the rumor mill was going, right? That he just didn't want to show up to West Coast to race Deegan once that all happened. And that could be very infuriating as a mom, like hearing people talk all this shit, right? You know, and so how did that all affect you? I mean, because obviously you knew he was absolutely ill and he just, and I don't know, do you know, the Drakes, Derek and Hannah?
Oh yeah.
So we're very good friends with them. Yes. And Myron and them, they're very, like, some of our best friends. And so I was actually talking to Hannah about, she's like, oh no, he was so sick and they had to go get tested. And like, they were doing all this testing right before I guess she said him and his girlfriend both were very sick.
Yes.
And so, you know, like people that on the inside obviously knew he was actually sick and he was battling something and trying to figure out what the heck was going on with his body. But the world's talking. Like how did you as a family manage that and deal? And as a mom, how do you compartmentalize?
That was like the worst day ever. Like, you know, we drive all the way down there in our moto van. My daughter brings my grandkids. Like, we're going to make a trip out of it. My daughter's so stoked because she's going to see her brother. We're going to go to Disneyland. We were like, depending on how his weekend went, he may have stayed an extra day to go to Disneyland with us. And so when people are saying that it was planned, that he, you know, just like... just purposefully like just decided to be scared and not race Aiden Deegan. I'm just like, are you out of your mind? Like, are people actually saying that? Like, we wouldn't have loaded up our whole car and taken an entire week off of work to drive down here for him to back out. Like, this was definitely not planned. So it was really, really hard. And my heart hurt for Levi, honestly, because you know, we're trying to figure out why is he sick? Like, and he gets sick a lot. And that's something like last year, he doesn't touch on it a lot, but he had blood work done and all of his levels were out of whack. And it was a crazy time. So, you know, they overexert their bodies and it's his job now, right? And mom's not there with him. Mama Bear is not in Florida telling him he needs to get his sleep. And, you know, it's a fine line. His girlfriend does an amazing job. She's a motocross racer herself, so she gets it. But they're still kids. And so, you know, he's a nail biter. And I'm like, you can't bite your nails on the airplane. Like, wear a mask, even though masks aren't a thing anymore, because that's, I think, why you're getting sick. You're touching all the things. And then when you're, you know, straining your body. So essentially, I think what happened, we were trying to figure out, she felt a little bit better. Let's see, like, they got it when they flew in Monday or Sunday night. They both started feeling under the weather. And then She got better. He went and got an IV. What we thought was that he got too many IVs because he got one during the middle of the week and then he got one again on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So he started to feel a little bit better. And then he woke up like at 3:00 on Saturday morning and he told Brooke, he's like, he couldn't even grip like his hands. Like, I think the blood flow to them were like he got overhydrated or there was something in the IV that caused a reaction. So, and I know my kid, like he's emotional, he's crying, and he's an adult. Like, he's like, I don't know what to do. And we're like, well, you need to go talk to Mitch and we need to figure this out. And luckily, Levi's agent, Jimmy Button, he was like, here's the deal. Like, he got hired to win a championship. And if they put him out here, like, he is either going to injure himself or somebody else because I can tell that he's sick. This is not like him. Like, he trained his ass off. He is so ready to race Deegan. Like, he was ready.
Yeah.
And he was feeling so good. And so luckily Jimmy was able to talk to Mitch and the team and they were like, we'll figure it out. And I wish that, and it is, it's over and done with now, but I wish that Levi would have communicated with Mitch like Friday morning, like, hey, because he didn't ride press, that like, I don't think I'm going to be able to ride. Because then they could have pulled Cam over, like Cam was ready, maybe Seth, like, because it sucks for Mitch, like, you know, and that's, my heart hurts for him, like the PC curse, and I'm like, it's nothing to do with the bikes or it's just, unfortunate circumstances. And so, but going back to the people talking crap on the internet, and it hurts a lot. And I have to get off of it. And Levi he doesn't spend a lot of time on it. He has somebody managing it and occasionally he'll get on and do something, but I'm so glad that he's made that decision to do that because I'm like, it's not healthy.
Yeah. No.
And I'm wanting to be the keyboard warrior and defend him. And I'm just like, my husband's like, stop. Like,
well, and on top
like,
of it, as if that's not bad enough, like you are also worrying about your child because he's not well and you don't have answers. So as you're already stressed, which is obviously the bigger issue is like you're stressed about worrying about why is Levi not getting better? Why are things getting worse? And now they're running tests. And then you have that background of the like crap talk. Yeah, all the chatter. So I could imagine like that's like a double whammy for a mom.
Yes, and AMA, because he went out and rode free practice, they wanted a doctor. So it's the reason was medical. And so they made him go to the hospital. And so then my husband and I, because Levi, again, he's very sensitive and he does get sick a lot. And so I was like, they made him go to get checked out. And I'm like, God, what if it comes back that he's completely fine? Like my mom and me, and so I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be just terrible. But he ended up like testing positive for like whatever that flu virus was.
The neurovirus? Is it that one? Oh, the respiratory. It was all respiratory.
It was 2 different kinds of like, what is, there's like,
flu A and flu B.
Yes. Influenza A or B, one of those, and pneumonia. So thank God, because then he didn't come back. His girlfriend brought the doctor's note back to the semi to give to the AMA. But I was like, dear God, like they're better. I knew he was sick, but just a cold.
Like, are you being dramatic?
Right. Like at 24, are you being dramatic? Because I knew that. Yeah, I knew he was sick, but how sick was he? And then it like lingered for like, he was sick for a long time after that.
Mm-hmm. I've heard those kick your butt, and to have both of them at the same time would be rough.
Yes. And he is a kid that, like I said, he had some health things last year. So he's now like this year, going into this year, he's got everything. Like he's used his resources and he's got he's got the financial planner. He's got the nutritionist. He's got the mental coach, which I think is hugely important, that somebody other than mom and dad and his girlfriend and their family. And then the last piece of the puzzle is that he wants to really buy an RV or something to have at the Outdoor Nationals so that he can have his own space. Because he's a napper and a thinker, and it's hard to do that in the semi. Most 250 riders don't do that. So I think we're coming up, it's 3 weeks away. I think we're going to rent, and because a lot of the riders will rent the RVs and just have them dropped off, because when you're at the Outdoor Nationals, like the airports and the hotels are 45 minutes to an hour away. So his sleep is so important to him that he's like, I just feel like this is my last piece of my puzzle to complete the whole, what I need. And I'm like, hey, I support that, whatever you need, and again, financially, like, that's the other thing that I think is super hard when you go from being an amateur to a professional. luckily we are, savvy with our money, and we've, take care of it. My husband and I, we've saved and set goals, and you do all those things. And then you have a son that becomes a professional motocrosser that is now making more money than you've ever dreamed of making.
Right.
Oh my gosh, you better invest it, because, this motocross career is short lived. Right.
Yeah.
And so luckily, as big as being a professional is, the industry is still really small. And so talking to people and finding who do you use. And so that was very helpful to me. So I found someone for Levi back in Florida that he's set up with for financial planning. And then his agent really helped. And so, but it's been an eye-opening experience for sure.
A big change. Well, and it's so hot when you go to the outdoor nationals, most of them, it's gruesome. Actually, Haley and I will be at Paula because our boys are going to do the amateur day on Friday. We won't be at Hangtown because actually that next weekend is our first regional for Loretta's at Paula. So we won't be in our backyard. But yeah, you do. It's like, it's hot, and then you throw in it's like the dehydration sets in. It's all the things. So
yes.
I say, Levi, get the RV.
Well, if you need a good rental company, let me know, because I know someone that does great rentals at Paula.
Well, so yeah, honestly, so his agent, he was going to go buy like a big old RV, and we're like, Levi, we just don't think that that's the best financial decision, but it's your money and it's we have to let you do what you think is best. And so his financial planner texted me yesterday, and he goes, I think I inadvertently talked Levi out of getting the big coach. And I was like,
good job.
Because yes, he goes, at least for right now. Like, I told him that he should rent one, and I go, ooh, he probably is not going to ask for my help, because last year at Colorado, I rented one for him, and you guys, it was an absolute, not a good RV. Like, I got it from that Outdoorsy, which pictures look great. We had like a Class C motorhome, and it looked identical to that. What is it called? Like Fisheye, or where they take the pictures that are like,
like 0.5.
Yes. Yes. So we flew into Colorado, and we were like, oh, you're not using the RV? And they're like, no. And I'm like, what do you mean? And so they're like, go over and take a look. And I went into it. You guys, it was awful.
Oh,
absolutely just disgusting. And I washed my hands, and I don't think the guy had drained the gray water or the freshwater tanks, because it had the grossest sulfur smell ever. It was terrible. So Levi, I talked to him this morning, and I was like, well, I'm really kind of glad that you're not buying the coach, because I think that comes when you get a 450 contract, when you earn that. I just don't think it's a good financial decision, because then you have to hire a driver, and then just all the things. I just don't think you're ready for that. And so how about we rent for a while? And he's like, I know, that's what Bo told me. And I go, do you need help? And he's like, I think I got it, Mom. And I was like, but I go, well, Mom. I go, because I'm also even though his dad taught him to be frugal, and so I'm like, you don't need to spend all that money, but I guess, more than you need to have comfort, and it needs to be clean. So
yes, right.
I'm thinking of what it was like when we were skimping by to get you to Loretta's. We did what we could. Now I'm like, okay, well, he can probably afford a little bit more than I could back when I was his age. So I guess we can spend a little more. So yes, if you have someone, because he's just gonna rent one for Paula and hang down.
He is actually best of friends and a business partner with Myron Short. And have him reach out to Derek and Hannah, because they know who he is. Yep, his name's Ryle, and if not, I can send you all of his contact info also. But he's got from fifth wheels to motorhomes, he's got it all.
Well, and we want Levi to get a fifth wheel, honestly, to start, because otherwise he's got the tow vehicle and just a motorhome. We've had motorhomes, and they're just, it's a lot. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
now I'll send you his info.
Perfect.
Okay, so another question I had for you, you've touched on your daughter, and obviously how your daughter didn't really have something that she was super passionate about, and didn't really have this sport that she just was so driven and connected to. How was it having a daughter in moto, growing up that way around all the boys and at the track, and making her still feel like she was somebody besides Levi's little sister? Or older sister. I'm sorry, not little.
Older sister. Yeah.
Yes.
It was like it's so funny because Levi, they had a great bond, and she always wanted to support and always wanted to be there, but we always would keep it in check and be like, okay, like, are you sure you want to go racing? And again, we did a lot of local stuff. She loved going to the races in California because it meant getting out of the rain in Washington. So that was an easy sell for her. But as far as being at the track, I think that's why she didn't love high school, because of the girl drama. So she did hang out with the boys more than the girls, which was also a little bit worrisome, but we knew that our kids had morals and values and that they would make good choices, and we would always circle back to that. And so, and ironically now she's with a moto boy. They've been together 8 years and they have 2 beautiful babies together. And so that is the way that it worked out. But we did have conversations, and I hear now, like when we were at Loretta's, like, don't be a track snack or whatever. And I'm like, what? Don't be one of those girls. Don't do that. So, but the one thing that my husband always did was, and he still does it, she's going to be 27 this month, is they have daddy-daughter dates. And so he still takes her on dates at 27. Like now it's turned into casino and dinner. Like they go to the casino together.
Yeah.
But he would always like take her to the movies and to dinner or to the mall at least like once every couple of months to just have that time with just her. Because, I mean, obviously, as you know, when you have a daughter, it's like your built-in best friend that wants to go shopping with you and do all the things. And so oftentimes she would stay back with me for the local races, and they would go for just a boys' weekend. But it was really important to us, and even still, that, she had that relationship with her dad. And so they, like I said, they still do that to this day. They go out on their little dates.
I like that.
I love that.
And I think, as far as keeping it equal, you guys, did you say you both have 3 kids?
Yep.
And see, my littlest is 5, so now he's old enough. He goes to the track, and he enjoys being at the track. He's really great at riding, but he has 0 interest in racing at this point. But like he tags along, so he's with dad all day, anyways. And so I'm the one that, like, if I'm honest, I have noticed like my daughter has 0 interest in her dad right now. And I like tell him, I'm like, you go wake her up for school, or like you. And the other night he like went and like sat on her bed, and she's like, please get off my bed. And he was like, what? And she's like, you just got back from the track. Your clothes is so dirty. Get off my bed. And he was like, he walked out. He goes, I don't think she even likes me anymore. And I'm like, oh. But it is like, I do all the dance stuff, me and him divide and conquer because she's competitive dancing. So we're gone, her and I, weekends at a time by ourselves. And I'm like, I feel like she's pushed him so far because like, in her mind, she doesn't need dad. Like in her eyes, I pay for dance. I take her to dance. When in reality, her dad does fund her dancing. But it's just mom. And so I was actually thinking about it. I'm like, he needs to, and so that's a great point. Like he needs to make that effort. And he does do it every couple months. He'll be like, okay, I'm just going to take her. We're going to go get a scoop of ice cream and just chat or whatever it may be. And then you notice that she like warms up again and like brings him back in, and his daddy's little girl. But it's totally, I've always wondered from somebody that's already done all this.
Yes. Yeah. And it's still, and you always question it, right? Like, and now, she's obviously not in the financial situation that her brother is in. We never dreamed that he would be in this position. And so that's another thing. We did a lot more for Levi financially than we did for our daughter growing up. And I recognize that. And so me being the mom that cares about that, it worries me. And so thankfully we invested in some property like 7 minutes from our house when we were young with my brother. And we put a used but newer manufactured home on it, and her boyfriend and the 2 kids live in the manufactured home. And eventually, once we get the land split, we've been dealing with the county now for 5 years, but hopefully going to get it done this summer. Then they'll be able to buy it from us, and that'll be their starter home. And obviously they'll have instant equity because we own the land outright. So it's kind of like, that's our, you sacrificed a lot by doing what you did to support your brother. And so in turn, we're going to do this for you because we recognize that we did do a lot more, because she didn't have her thing. She didn't we tried the dance. I tried, but I honestly, I'm not envious of your situation, because I know that puts a strain on a family to try divide and conquer.
Oh,
Like
it
that's
is.
hard.
I mean, I always talk to Shauna about it. You know, we go to Mammoth in June. I get home 2 days later. Her and I fly to Vegas, and we're in Vegas for 9 days for dance nationals. I get home from that. I'm going to be going to Oklahoma to take Talon to train before Loretta's, but then I'm going to have to do a swap because her dance recital is like July 15th or something, and she doesn't want me obviously missing that because I've got to do hair and makeup. So I'll do this.
Right.
I'll do the swap with somebody, like either probably my dad, fly in, take care of that, then fly back to Oklahoma. You know, it's just, and then you're at Loretta's for 2 weeks, and then it's school again. You know, it's just
Yeah.
A vicious
And then
cycle.
honestly, so as you talk about this, all these things, like people ask, like, what do you miss the most? And it's like, those were the times where I felt like we were just surviving.
Mhm.
Like you just have to really try to take the time to like enjoy some of it because you miss it. You truly do. Like
miss
all
the
of
chaos.
that running around, like
yeah.
the chaos. And I will say, like, as far as like, that was one of the things my husband, and we were fortunate enough to have family that would watch our kids so that we could go out on dates.
Yep.
Because I think as moms, we pour everything we have into our kids. That's just who we are. That's what we do. And then when they're gone, it's like, what's my purpose now? Like, what am I doing? Like, it was
Yep.
a mom forever and I did all these things. And thank God now I still like my husband. And I think that is attributed to us making the time, even though it was tough at times, to
Yep.
go out on a date night, once a month and just have time. And then you find if you guys do that, you talk about your kids the entire time, but at least you're doing it.
Yes.
Because now we're at that point where they're gone and it's like, now it's our time to go do things that we enjoy. But I miss that. And I'm so thankful now that, I have grandkids. They, fill my cup at, more than I ever thought.
Yeah.
But I do miss those moments of when my kids were little. Like it feels like it was just yesterday and it, and now here we are. They're, 27 and 24 and things will never be the same. Like, having the dinners at the dinner table for few and far between, I mean, like, cause our schedules were busy and we're doing the moto thing and we're just, all over the place. Advice would be to try to soak it all in and really take time to enjoy it because there will be a time when you miss it for sure.
Yeah.
I love that.
For sure.
That was actually going to be my question.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I love that you said it because I think, so my kids are older than Haley's. And so I went through the chaos. We just now got out of the chaos because Eve graduated high school last year. Ezra graduates this year. And so their stuff is kind of done. Like, as parents, I feel like we've kind of done our job. I mean, we're still there for them and all the things, but the running the round and we're not having to go to cheer. I mean, for 14 years, we did cheer and dance. And I still feel like even just with Aiden racing, sometimes I still feel like we're just in survival mode. And I think a lot of that is just because it's just a constant go.
Yeah, right. You miss it. You text me all the time. When's Miller dancing? I'm going to watch it on TV.
Well, I get to live vicariously through her, so I get to watch her stuff.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah.
But I do, like, there are times where I do miss it. And it's funny that you said the dinner thing because with our older two, sometimes they're not even home at dinner time. And everyone was home the other night. And one like went outside to do something. I'm like, get back in here and sit down. We're all eating together because we do not get to do this often like anymore because of their work and school schedules. And so I do love that you said that because I think it's a great piece of advice that although we want to do everything we can to like make this happen for our kids, we do have to come to reality of the most important thing is family.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And actually I'm celebrating my birthday in a couple of weeks. And my husband asked me this morning, what do you want for your birthday? We don't do gifts for each other. And I'm like, I don't need anything. And this was just this morning. And I said, you know what I'd really like is for all my kids to be around my kitchen table and cook them dinner. And I go, but that's not going to happen. And I go, well, he will get to come home for Washougal and he'll stay at the house. So that's in July. So I'll have a couple more months to have my kids at the table together. But, at this stage of the game, like that's what I miss the most is that, having us all together. And I think, even my mother and my husband's, father, like that's what they miss too. Like, as you get older, I think you become more sensitive to, when you had all of that because you remember it, but it's like, man, it's never going to be that way again.
But when you say that out loud, it's like wild to think like all you want for your birthday is to be able to sit around the dinner table and have your kids. And like, I'm in the stage where I'm like, can everyone go to their rooms? I need a minute.
Yes.
Like, I'm overstimulated. I'm sick of being touched. I'm sick of hearing my name.
Yes. Well, and the guy that built Levi's Motors growing up, he's a local guy here, Nick Ryan. He raised 3 kids, and he told us when we were in the thick of it, he's like, I'll tell you what, you guys, it's like, you know, parenting is like being at the biggest rock concert of your life, and you're just like jamming out, and it's just awesome. He goes, and then the music stops and the concert's over.
I like that.
And I was like, oh, that is so what happened. Like, like you're literally, like you said, like, can I just have a minute to just like, yeah. And then it's like quiet. And that is literally, you know, and my daughter's going through it right now. She has a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. And she's like, Mom, how did you do it? Like, and I, you know, I have them often because they're close, but they exhaust me. I'm like, I'm a fairly young grandma, but I'm like, I don't know how I survived like that. The 1 and the 4-year-old, like the 1-year-old is into everything. And, you know, he's all boy. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, when they leave, I'm like, I'm not a huge drinker, but I'm like, I need a glass of wine. Like right now. So yes, but yeah.
Okay, I do have another question. Do you consider yourself competitive? Like, were you, I mean, because like I'm like me and Shauna, we're competitive. We talk about it. I mean, we're competitive. Even if we get bored, we make up competitions to have against each other because that's just our nature. But I'm competitive. I want my kid to win. Like it's just being a parent though, and I think I've invested all this time and money. Like, you better go and lay it down, you know?
Yeah.
But do you consider yourself? Were you like a competitive mom growing up with him?
I would say there were times when my husband would kind of consider me the underminer though, because he still is my little boy and he's a sensitive boy. And so Paul never would yell or anything, but there were times when, you know, Levi didn't try his best and I would make an excuse like, oh, well, he didn't eat or, oh, well, he didn't sleep. But I mean, I truly wanted him to win. And I grew up, my brother was like star basketball, star football, and I was the most inspirational cheerleader. Like, but I played sports and I love to win. And even more so now, like with Levi, I think I'm a little bit more, I guess, harder on him now in his professional career than I was in his amateur career, because I know what he's capable of.
Yeah.
And so that competitiveness is like, it's coming out in me now that I'm like, oh no, like you've done everything. Like, and that's the hard part too, because that belief in himself, like I believe in you, and not just because I'm your mom. There's people around you, like your whole circle, the whole town of Washougal, like they know that so you better start believing it. Because I mean, he would go to the starting line in these professional races and it's like he got numerous hole shots and then somehow, like, you know, just started to not get hole shot. We're like, what is the deal? Like, what's going on? I don't know. I'm like, and so I'm trying to teach him, like, visualize, like, do you visualize like being first to the first turn? Like, and he's just like, Mom. And I'm like, no, but for real, like, and then just like routine, like my husband is like, do you do the same routine on race day? Like from start to finish, like, do you have like certain things? So yes, I would say that we're both like super competitive and that like, no, you have all the tools and now you need to go out and kick ass.
Yes.
Like, so, and when you don't, like, we're going to have a conversation about why you did it. Like,
and essentially now, like at his pro level, like that's his source of income.
Yeah.
You know?
And that was like basically like his dad today when we were talking about the coach. And I'm so glad that, you know, that he made the right choice. But his dad was like, you know, I'll keep looking for you for fifth wheels or motorhomes. But he's like, you know, we can get you a used one. I've looked, there's some down in Florida. And he goes, that's basically 2 race wins. And then you've paid cash for it. Because he was going to like potentially finance it against his investments, which is not a terrible idea, but also too, what happens if you get injured? And then, you know, I mean, you just have to think about all those things and make smart choices. And so, I was very happy that he's like, you know, oh yeah, just 2 race wins. And that's how he got his bass boat, even though Detroit was not how he wanted to win. He was first to the checkers after the 3-lap sprint. So he got the boat.
Yep.
Absolutely. He did not feel good about that at all. And he knows that he did not win that night, you know, in the main event, but at all. And that was another, like, I don't know why that night like why he was off. We asked him and he's like, I don't know. I just didn't feel. And that's the one thing, because people are like, do you ever worry? Like, what is it like for you as a mom? And I'm like, Levi has always been so, like, he's a thinker, where his dad was like, if I don't get the whole shot, I'm going to do what it takes. And I'm going to weed my brains out in between then, you know? And Levi has never been that way. It would take Levi, like, if there's a big triple at a local track and everybody's hitting it, Levi's like, I'm not doing it. And he wouldn't do it until the very end of the day. And then he'd be like, oh my gosh, that was so easy. And we're just like, oh. But everything is on his terms. And I will say that I think that has kept him safe, is because he doesn't ride that edge. And I always used to call him my little Ryan Dungey. He's like, stop calling me that. And I'm like, well, because I feel like there is truth to, you win by just being there. Like, consistency is important.
Yes.
So that is kind of like, that's the kind, his style. He needs to get more aggressive. He knows that. Recently he's like, no, I feel like I am. And I saw that in Detroit. I saw that and I hope for him, but I also still think he needs to not, I don't know. And at that level,
over your head, it's dangerous.
Exactly.
And I think that's great, because like our boys, Aiden and Talon, are very much the same. They're very technical riders and they are very smart racers. And we always tell Talon, like, you've got to ride a little bit harder, like find that edge between safe and like wild and out. And he just really won't budge. Like, he kind of budges when he knows it's a safe move to make, but he is just not willing to go past it. And the same, same outlook. My son has been very safe. And
yes,
I think that, and like Sean and I talk about it a lot, like in the long term, I think the technicality of being like a technical rider will get you further, in my opinion, versus just riding over your head all the time because you want to win. There's a time and place to add that speed in to push that little bit of the edge.
Yes. And I think Levi in his professional career has done things, practicing and in some race situations where he has rode the edge when he didn't need to. He went out and broke his wrist practicing because he wanted to be the first guy to skim the whoops at the practice track, and he didn't need to be. Like, it's practice, you know, but he learned from that. And so even actually he went out and he tested with Mitch a couple weeks ago. They got the outdoor bike set up, and he kind of got a little bit of flack, he told us, from them, because they're like, dude, you're way off the pace. He was at Paula. I think it was Paula or Glen Hill. No, Paula on a Tuesday, where everybody comes out. And Levi was like, dude, I had a super mini or a small bike, like I'm not going to hang it out here like that. I don't need to prove I will do it, in sections where I feel safe, but I'm sorry that my lap times are a little bit slower because I'm just not willing to risk it for the biscuit here at Paula on a Tuesday. Sorry.
But I think that's also like mature of him too, right? Like, we've always told Aiden that sometimes, like, it's not the fastest guy that always wins. Like, and if you truly want this to last as long, we all know this is not a sport. I know there are the few that when you get into your mid 30s, like, you're probably done. And so you need as much healthy longevity years as you can to be able to retire and still, do all the things. So you have to ride smart, you have to be consistent, and you have to know when the risk is what's the term?
The risk is worth the reward.
Yeah.
And I will say, coming from a little mom, like my 65 kid, we've been there on a Tuesday, and my son has been revved on by a pro, and I will not name names. And to this day, my kid will never root for him again because he terrified my little boy. And he was like, he is such a jerk, Mom. Like, who does that to a little kid? And I'm like, well, all right. So...
Well, you're riding with the big boys, Talon.
So Talon is a Levi fan. He got to meet Levi. Did he come to Loretta's last year?
Yeah, he was there last year and the year before.
Yes, and he was sitting, Levi knows my husband, Casey, and so they were talking in the Fox Tower, and Talon's like, I want a picture, Mom. I'm like, so ask him. And he's like, that's so embarrassing. And I was like, I tapped Levi on the shoulder. He's like, yes. And I was like, will you please take a picture with my son? And he's like, yeah, of course. He's like, dude, hop up here. And I was like, see, how hard was that, Talon?
I love it.
Yes, and that's the one thing that I will say with Levi that, and Kevin Wyndham told us that in the trailer and said that to Levi. He goes, I'll give you this advice from my perspective of what it was like for me. There's going to be parts about the job that you do not like at all. A lot of them actually, because it is at the end of the day, it's a job.
Yep.
But you have to do those parts of the job. And when you're done, like I'm done, you'll actually miss those parts of the job that you didn't like, as you're going through it. And one of those being guns. And so, as burnt out as that may seem, I totally, and Levi knows it's so important to me that you're a good role model for those little kids. And so like that girl that posted that Levi came over after, I don't know if you guys saw that TikTok, but came over after Paula. He basically was like, can you sign my cast? And Levi of course did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Levi went out of his way to like give the kid his jersey, like found his van. And I'm like, that's the kind of stuff as a mom. Like, I don't care how much money, I don't care that you win. I don't care. Champion. I mean, I care about all of that, but that you're a good human and that you recognize that there is a lot of people.
He's a trendsetter. I mean, everyone has the cheetah hair now.
I know. And that was, I'm like, if you could have been grounded as an adult, I would have grounded him.
Actually, what's funny is, obviously we got to see Levi a lot when we were in Florida, and we know Brooke's family really well. They were one of the first families we met in Florida. When Levi, before Levi did his hair, Aiden was like, I'm going to shave my hair again. And I was like, no, you're not. And then literally like that weekend, Levi came out and Aiden goes, can I do it now that Levi did? And I was like, oh my gosh. I text Brooke and I was like, Brooke, Aiden wants cheetah hair now. I'm going to need you to come do his hair like you did Levi's.
Yeah. I mean, everyone at the track has it, Sarah. All these kids now have the cheetah hair.
Well, and at our local school, like now that I don't have a life outside of moto and being a mom, and my husband, we downsized our business once COVID got through. So we don't have employees anymore, which makes it easier for both of us. It's great, but I'm bored out of my mind. Like I've always worked and I'm like, I can't, we live in the country. Like I can't just stay home and clean the house 24/7. So I sub at the schools just whenever I want. So yeah, ultimately it's like, oh my gosh, I see all these little kids and it's just like, oh, they all have cheetah hair. And they're like, and when I sub at the local school just down the hill, they're like, you're Levi. I can't say that I'm Mrs. Kitchen because then they're like, oh, are you Levi Kitchen's mom? So I tell them I'm Miss Sarah. Now they all know because people, it's like, but there's a couple of them that have cheetah hair and it's like, oh my goodness, it's crazy. I keep trying to talk Levi to come back and like talk at his school because he went there through 8th grade.
Okay.
And he's like, no way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they all just love you. And I think it would be so cool to like tell the kids, that like your dreams do come true if you work hard and,
Absolutely.
Yes.
But he's like, no, I don't know. I don't know if he ever will because he does not like public speaking, just like his father. Like that's just not his jam. He's getting better at it. So maybe one of these days, but yes, I think ultimately just for these kids, like teach them to be good humans and just be nice. And because that when the career is over, that's what people remember.
Yeah, no, we're big on that for sure. My last question for you is at the end of the day, was it all worth it?
Oh man, absolutely. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And like I said, I think our way was not the traditional way. It sounds like you guys have done a little of both and you're figuring it out. Like, if it's meant to be, it's going to be. And that sounds really cliche, but it wasn't worth the family falling apart and that stress of like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And, I don't know what people's faiths are, whether it's God, the universe, like I do a lot of praying and more so now than ever. And it's like, it happened and it definitely was all worth it. And I don't have any regrets at all, that nobody knew who Levi Kitchen was for 10 years at Loretta's because we had the best time at Loretta. Like we literally just treated it as a family vacation. But again, we were spending lots of money. And so just end the week better than you started it.
Yeah.
And that's it. So that we, improve and always do your best. And then the other piece too, that we made Levi do that you guys probably do too, is the whole sponsorship thing. a lot of people are like, how do you get all these things? And we're like, we make Levi ask for it. Like, cause he would be like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, no, you're absolutely going to go up to them and talk to them. And then if he would have to call them, it was like, oh, I can't leave a message. No, you're going to leave a message. And texting was just starting out. We're like, no, you're not texting. You're going to call and you're going to talk to them, or you're going to go up to them face to face.
Is Levi like a pretty quiet guy?
Very quiet.
He is. Okay.
Yes.
See, my son thinks he's running for mayor. He likes to talk to everybody. So that's never a problem.
That's good.
And Aiden's quiet. Yep.
Until you get to know him.
That was Levi too. Yeah. So, but yeah, making them do those things on their own, because those are life skills that they're going to need regardless of whether motocross is their thing when they get older. Like, they're going to need to know how to communicate and overcome adversity and all of those things. So, 120% worth every penny, and like I said, now we're in the situation where we didn't mortgage our house. We still have we have, money to be able to go do our own things. And we're not relying on Levi to pay us back. He did ask his dad to drive his hauler for him, that he would put him on payroll. And, they had, and they had talked about that, like when Levi, if he gets a 450 contract sometime, when he has like the hauler, because usually that's when they do it. My husband's like, maybe. And then he literally asked him like 2 weeks ago if he'd want to do it. And my husband was like, Levi, I thought about it. And I don't even know when he's on a 450, because then he's no longer dad, right? There's like, I'm on your payroll, and I don't want to cross that line with any of that. Like, I still want him to just be dad, and I just still want to be mom. So I don't think that we'll ever get to that point of being an employee of Levi.
Sounds like it's a way of him wanting his dad at every race, though.
I know.
Without saying dad come to every race. Yeah.
I know. I think that's the piece too, that's been like, I told my husband after being married 30 years, like, if you want to go to some races, like, hi, it's okay. I'm okay with being alone for a weekend.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
I'm really okay with it. So he has gone to a couple. He actually just went back and spent a week with Levi without me. He took his dad, my father-in-law, because he's getting older. And I'm like, he's never going to go back unless we force him to. So for his birthday, we bought a ticket for him to go back and hang out with them. And I'm like, no, really, I'll be fine at home for a week without you.
We enjoy peace and quiet.
Yes. Yeah. And it really makes you appreciate, when they're gone. It's like, when he came back, I was ready for him to come back, but I did enjoy my week of, I had artichoke for dinner one night, a yogurt, like I didn't have to cook, and it was just like so nice.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah. Yes. So,
Shauna, do you have anything else?
No, literally, Sarah, you were so good. We had all these questions, and you literally answered everything. We barely had to even ask you anything. I love it.
Yeah.
Good. Well, it was awesome, like, to tell his story. Like I said, I've never been on a podcast, and it's a unique one in the sense that, I think he's one of the few that was nobody and then became somebody just by the way that it worked out. And for your kids, I will say, when they need to work hard, but when it matters is when they get up on big bikes, and then they have to really be, and by being, ready, like strong. That's the biggest thing, right? Because you can't deny that either of your kids have the talent. I went back and looked at their results, and I'm like, oh yeah, like they're right in there. And so when they get on big bikes, that piece to building muscle and having good core strength. That is like Levi this year, finally, he's like 15 pounds heavier. And that's good, because I think when you're on a 250 and a 450 and you have that power, like, to be in shape and know what your body needs to sustain a 35-minute moto in the heat, like Supercross, people will say, like, that's just, it's hitting your marks and breathing and just being on your A game. I don't do it, but I feel like physically there's not as much physical training that goes into Supercross as there is outdoors. And outdoors is a matter of, you do that 35-minute moto in the brutal heat, and then you have to turn back around with very little rest and do it again.
Yeah.
So I think, Levi's learned that being a little bit heavier and having a little more meat on his bones and a little more muscle is more conducive to his success than how it was for him when he first started out as professional. Like and overtraining, like he now, like, honestly, his weeks, like, he does maybe 2 or 3 35-minute motos, and then it's more of like technical training. So not overdoing it.
Yep.
And so, you know, when they get up on big bikes, it's really, that's really when it's going to matter.
Do you have a preference of what you enjoy more, Supercross or outdoors with him?
Outdoors for sure.
Okay.
For me, Supercross is just nerve wracking to me. It is, because if mentally they are not on, I mean, it just takes such, I don't love it. I definitely don't. And it's just such a show, you know, you have to be talented, obviously, to do it. But to me it's, I mean, Feld Entertainment, it's an entertainment show. And so for me, outdoors is more of like the strongest survive. Like if he doesn't get a good start in outdoors, just like at Loretta's when he started out in 36 and he ended up winning, like it's who has, and that's where Levi has to learn this year. He says that he's better is his racecraft and those opening laps. Like it's okay if you get a 12th place start, if you ride smart and get through all the traffic.
Right.
And, you know, within like the first 5 laps, same with Supercross. I mean, it's pretty start dependent. And if you don't make your way through all that crazy traffic, then your night is probably not going to end well because it's so much shorter. Where with outdoors, you just have a little more time. But starts are important regardless too. And that was like, you know, I don't know why they don't practice that more. They do now, but I'm like, it's like muscle memory. Like, I don't know why you guys don't do a million of those every day, because that is what sets the tone for the whole race. Like, it's like me when I played volleyball, like serving the ball. It's like I had to do it a million times over again until you just got used to the way that the ball was supposed to, you know, at what level. Same with shooting a basketball. Like, it doesn't change. So that would always irritate me. He's like, you don't even know, Mom. I'm like, no, actually I do.
Yeah. Just because I didn't ride dirt bikes.
So,
But
yes. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
It was super fun.
Well, we're excited to watch him in the outdoors.
Yes.
We'll definitely be in person cheering him on at
Thank
Paula.
you guys.
Super excited.
Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us and
like I said,
break it all down for us.
Yeah, no problem. And I guess I'll officially get to meet you at Paula because we'll be there.
Yeah.
We're going to bring our van down and hang out. And then we're going to go up into Mammoth. Again, we get to go with our friends. They're coming with their van and we're going to go like hiking. And
fun.
You go to Mammoth and you're there to do a job and just race moto. Like there's so much there that I want to see and do. So we're going to go and spend the week in between Paula and Hangtown and just, explore Mammoth on a different level without motorcycles.
Non-moto.
Well, enjoy it because Mammoth is beautiful, as you know, and it's so much fun.
Yes.
So much to do. Well, thank you again. We appreciate it, and
Yes.
we look forward to meeting you in person.
All right. Sounds good.
All
Take care,
right.
ladies.
Bye, Sarah. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.